All right. Yeah, that looks good, huh? I,
I gotta say, it does. It
yeah,
really does look good.
yeah. I gotta take off the take the tag out though. Probably should have done that before I put the shirt on. Omaha is a blast to troll with, especially as a pirate. Is this one of your games, Deadliest? Oh, there we go. Stevie's going to his spot now, so I can turn the Stevie camera on for you guys. It's finally there. This is you. Okay, cool. All right, so topics to discuss today, ladies and gentlemen. I think the first one that we can discuss in our Zath chat portion here is going to be the nerfing of premium ships. I'd like to talk about it, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about this. As some of you guys might have noticed, I still sound like Tom Cruise. Well, thank you, Captain SFC. Appreciate that. As some of you guys might have noticed, the Hyuga has been nerfed slightly. It's had a 1 second reduction in its reload time. So, interestingly enough, Wargaming has started putting that little caveat when you buy ships like Issei and stuff. There's a caveat that says that the ship may be nerfed if it is seen to be overperforming. That's something that's just started recently. It hasn't been going on for a very long time. So, let's talk about that for a second. One thing about premium ships that a lot of people would buy a premium ship for is if they see it as an overpowered ship. I'm talking about the Giulio Cesare or the Kamikaze, the Enterprise, right? Ships that do really well. Issei changes planes removed, lol. Ships that do really well, and people want to buy it before it goes away. One thing that is a result of the nerf, or the fact that they can nerf premium ships now, is you miss out on that kind of like buy it before it's gone mentality that the player base might have. So that's interesting that kind of thing can happen. Now, premium ships have been nerfed in the past. Okay, but they were nerfed as a result of a mechanics change. A good example was the Belfast got nerfed because of the smoke fire penalty mechanic that got added to the game. Flint has been nerfed because of the commander rework that removes AFT, right? So there are times and occasions when premium ships do get nerfed based off of mechanics changes, but a straight out nope, we're gonna drop this on this ship, we're gonna reduce its reload, we're gonna impact its turret traverse, etc., etc. That's all stuff that's relatively new to the game. IFHE rework, absolutely peak up. That definitely caused a change. So I'd love to know from you guys, what do you guys think about this, about these nerfing of the premium ships? Do you guys think that it's a good thing, or do you think that it's a bad thing? I like the fact that ships, if for whatever reason Wargaming makes a mistake with balance, that they have the ability to go in and change it. But on the same token, there's that feeling that you've got a ship that you bought with the expectation that it performs in a certain fashion, and then having that changed slightly or in a large fashion could have an impact. So Thunderer, for example, is a ship that I know people get for coal, but some people might have spent some money in order to obtain containers that got the coal. So that's something to consider. Now, Toxic says you don't own the pixels anyways, and that's a good point. As soon as this game is dead, or as soon as you stop playing the game, then your investment in the game is pretty much meaningless anyways, right? So that's something. Some people are saying something about the ship will not change for a certain amount of time after release. Now, that's an interesting way of putting it. I like that thought, because that means that the ship can be nerfed, but maybe not for, like you're saying in chat there, 90 days or something along those lines in the future. If they change it, you're entitled to a refund. That would be interesting too, especially because the Hyuga's change I mean, a 1 second change to your reload is probably not going to have that much of an impact in battle, especially because of the fact that the Hyuga's got the main battery reload booster gimmick. So, you know, basically you have on-demand reload when you need it. So that's something to consider. They do the earnings bonuses. Okay, I'm trying to catch up with chat, guys. Let's talk about that. They could be changing earnings bonuses. So, for example, everybody knows that Missouri has a higher credit earning capabilities and stuff like that. Okay. Can be both good. It can be both good if they don't base nerfs on how the super unit comes to perform in the ship. Well, that's one of the reasons why super testers, CCs, and others are all play the ship and stuff like that. You don't want your top of the line creme de la creme players playing the ship only, because if that's the case, you lose a lot of the balancing capabilities. Never change the winning formula. Okay, go ahead.
Can I interject? So, the thing that I was just thinking about is, instead of nerfing the premium ships over a duration of time, why don't they take the extra time before the ship is introduced to the public? Just give it that extra month or so to see the full performance. It might not change that much, but it's better to just sacrifice a little bit of extra time instead of actually putting it out there and people say, oh my goodness, this ship is the best, I gotta get it, and then all of a sudden, bam, you get a nerf. Like, why can't they just take a little bit more time? I think I'm basically talking like what Sea Raptor said. Why don't they just introduce them a little bit less? Like, they shouldn't introduce a whole pocket of them every single update. They should just, you know, do work over time to see if ever that, like, if ever it still needs the fix or not, instead of just throwing it out there and saying, here you go.
So that, for us as players, that makes a lot of sense. But we also have to think about this decision from Wargaming's perspective, right, as a company. And if Wargaming is going to slow down release of those ships, then they're going to have to change how they monetize the game, right? Because essentially, the premium ships that they're selling, that's going to be a big chunk of their earnings. So on one hand, think about it that way. The other thing you have to think about is if you're going to slow down the release schedule and you're going to say, all right, we're going to put let's say the Issei on a two patch cycle, right? Then what you're going to end up with is having your testers have to test maybe another 50% more ships than they currently are already, because you have to remember they're testing lines like the Dutch cruiser line that's coming out now, and you also have to balance all the or test all the other ones at the same time. And that might be almost too much where they're at right now. I think the older days go back a couple of years to what Warships was a couple of years ago with release schedules, and it's probably much more manageable and palatable. But I kind of feel like right now there's too much emphasis on pushing stuff out, right? I'm just gonna catch up with chat. Keep to the internal release schedule or bust with new ships. And Deadliest, yes, there are times where it'd be nice if they would look at a ship and say, guys, we're not ready for this, we're gonna have to change. And it's possible that some ships have done that, but we just don't know, because, you know, Wargaming isn't going to tell us. We're not happy with this ship, so we're just going to pull it for a bit. Toxic pointing out a ship can be in testing for 2 years and still be terrible, talking about the Leone. Or it could still be in testing for 2 years and be OP, like the TED 61.
And Slava. Wasn't Slava in testing for like a long period of time?
Slava was in testing for a while, yes. They have to continue pushing out the ships to fill up the drop pools for Christmas containers, lol. But Raining is exactly right. When you're going to put a ship into development, you have to basically budget, right? You have to budget costs for art, for development, animations, etc., etc. And the other thing too is every time wargaming makes a change that maybe changes like a commander skill, or they might change a like a camouflage or something like that, they have to apply it to all their ships. Now, it's very possible that they have to do that to each and every individual ship, and there's what, 450 ships in the game now.
At least, yeah.
So yeah, if it's still in development hell, it's not earning money for the developer. So, right, yeah, that's just saying. Sometimes timing is difficult because it's tied to events. Gamescom is a big one in Germany. There's always a German ship that gets released around time for Gamescom, right? And the general population could find a way that to play that's different, right? Now you're talking about the Petropavlovsk. Now, interestingly enough, Petro is a tech tree ship, so it very well could have been nerfed, and I think a lot of people would argue should have been nerfed, but it hasn't. So, Duckman, it's very possible hybrids did go through a lot more testing than originally planned, and we can't. You know, comment on how much testing it went through before it went to live testing. Captain, that's an interesting idea. So player testing time. So basically, if you're gonna buy the ship, you buy it with the understanding that you've got 90 days to play it and try it. Kind of like what Steam does, right? Steam allows you to return a game if you've owned it for less than 2 weeks and you have less than, I think, 2 hours of playtime on it or something like that.
Yeah.
So...
I was just thinking about this, and some other games have this, and again, this is just putting a thought out there. Why not put in a sort of subscription-like service sort of thing? Like you can test out ships before you buy, and you pay like a smaller amount of money for this sort of subscription.
We have...
I mean that would be an idea. I'm just thinking about this because I'm actually just looking at my marketing course, right? Well, my microeconomics course, which also covers marketing, and discussion about Spotify and with subscription-based music and all that sort of stuff. Try it before you buy. It almost feels like, or like a rental. Rent a ship for 3 days and see what happens. I think World of Tanks has that idea where you can try it out for 3 days before you make your decision.
We have asked Wargaming for a rental system for quite some time. Unfortunately, it hasn't come into place. Now, there have been a couple of cases where we saw some rentals entering in. For example, you might see a ship that's available for a certain time, and then you only have it for like a week, and then if you like it, you have to buy it, kind of a deal. But yeah, we haven't seen like a full-on just rent the ship and play it. Now, while we're talking about premium ships and nerfing, I want to cover a premium ship that actually received multiple buffs. And this is something else you have to consider too, is that as players, we're like, oh, you want to buff the premium ship I paid for? Sure. You want to nerf it? Go to hell. You know what I mean?
It's true.
It's like, it's interesting that we as players like it one way, but we don't want to take it the other. I think if this rule was in place, as a good example, if this rule was in place, Wargaming could still be selling maybe the Belfast, maybe the Enterprise, maybe other ones. But, you know, they're not. Tirpitz is an example of a ship that's been buffed several times. It got a secondary range buff. It got I believe it also got a main battery accuracy buff as well.
I believe all those buffs, though, were German battleships in general got a buff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they were, but then Tirpitz was buffed to be in line with those ships, like the Bismarck, for example. They didn't have to do that. A good example of not doing it is, oh crap.
Atlanta and Flint.
Thank you. I was gonna talk about that. I was thinking about there was an American battleship that doesn't have the. Oh, it's the Missouri. The Missouri did not get a heal buff like the Iowa did, right? Pretty sure that the Missouri's heal is what.
Missouri's heal is less than the
Yeah.
Iowa's, but I always thought the Iowa, like the tech tree always had the better heal over the Missouri.
No, they had the same one early on. It got corrected.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then the Missouri never got the.
No.
Hi,
tech
Toxic.
tree buff.
Hey.
But yeah, that's a great example of, you know, just because they nerf a line doesn't mean that, or buff a line doesn't mean they have to buff the premium ship as well.
But would you consider the Missouri a premium ship? I know it's categorized as that, but it was a free experience ship.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't have to spend
Wasn't
real
it
money.
And nobody
Well, people
technically
did.
bought it either, right? So it's in the, you could call it the same as a Stalingrad in that case, because nobody paid money for it. So yes,
Yep.
the Missouri could be nerfed and buffed, and nobody could do anything about it.
Yep.
Because they've taken that stand on like the various boats that they've been nerfing recently, like the Thunderer.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't it considered like a freemium or
Yeah.
an expenium or whatever?
It's a special ship, I think, is what they
It's a
technically
special
are.
ship, yeah.
Yeah.
Like that one, you could throw Musashi in there. You got your Friesland. Like, there's a whole bunch of boats. that
Even
could go.
Alaska.
Smalland. When are we nerfing Smalland?
Okay.
Well, that's just a garbage pile.
Yeah, of course, but I'm just saying.
Captain, yes. This is a mainstay of our stream on our Sundays. We get my dailies out of the way, and we have our Zath chat where we just talk about the game, and we don't like to, you know, we're not here to like call someone a crap player or trash somebody's opinion. We just talk about where we see things and discuss it in both ways, and hopefully you come out of it slightly enlightened, but you know, not pissed off.
Gotta come into it pissed off.
There you go. All right. Anything else you guys want to discuss on the topic of premium ships and nerfing them?
You need to do more of it.
Arpeggio Yamato, I think, is considered a premium ship because you could only buy it outright.
It's a
Using currency.
premium, but it has the caveat as well as, what is it, Wu Jing? And the, I don't even remember what the Chinese takeout box on top of the Saipan is called.
Shenzhen.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shenzhen.
But those are all tied directly to their tech tree boats. So the understanding, and some of the, I think it's, what is it, the Congos and the Mayokos as well, the various nightclubs. That those ones will all get changed if the tech tree boat is changed.
All right. Well, I guess it might be time to move on to our next topic. I might get that. I'm not worried about Death Picks Kadu. If they come up, they come up. But if they don't, they don't. You know, we're more focused just on the chat and the discussion and stuff. So, let's see. What do I have next on my stream planner? Oh, that's gonna take a while.